If you're an enthusiast looking for the ultimate driving sports sedan, it's pretty hard to beat the BMW 3 Series. This model has essentially been the quintessential option for driving enthusiasts for decades. However, over the last few generations, the 3 Series has gotten a lot bigger, a lot heavier, and a lot more expensive. Now, about 5 years ago, BMW attempted to introduce a baby sedan into their lineup known as the 2 Series Gran Coupe. And when it first came out, it certainly had some promising specs. It was built off of the very first front drive architecture for a BMW in the US, and it offered two different flavors, essentially riding on a modified platform that it shares with a Mini Cooper. Now for 2025, we are seeing an all-new, fully redesigned 2 Series Gran Coupe, and as you can see, it's a pretty evolutionary change. BMW has attempted to clean up the exterior design to make it look a little bit more like a baby 4 Series, and underneath the hood, this M235 model has more power from its 2-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder. So as you can see, this week, we are testing out the latest M235i painted in Vegas red, and the big question I want answered: has BMW managed to capture the magic of the 3 Series in a smaller 2 Series Gran Coupe? Stay tuned to find out. Now, before we start talking about the all-new styling for this second generation 2 Series Gran Coupe, let me go ahead and pop the hood and remind you guys what's powering this thing. Now, unlike a lot of other modern BMW sedans or even previous ones, you're gonna notice something funny with the engine, and that's because it's mounted transversely, because this was one of the first front-wheel drive sedans that BMW introduced here in America. Now, when I say front-wheel drive, I'm basically speaking that this shares a platform with the Mini Cooper or the Mini Countryman, because this architecture, as you can see, supports basically a 2-wheel drive version that's front-wheel drive. However, when this car first launched, they didn't even offer it with front-wheel drive. They all came with their xDrive all-wheel drive system. However, for 2026, you can now get a front-wheel drive 228i version, or minus the I, of course. But as you can see, underneath the hood, you find a 2-liter turbocharged direct injection 4-cylinder engine. It's part of their B48 engine family. And here in the M235 version, we now have more power, 312 horsepower, that's an increase of 11, and 295 foot-pounds of torque. That's actually around 30-ish less pound-feet of torque versus the previous generation, but like I said earlier, we have an increase of around 11 horsepower. It all goes out through a 7-speed dual-clutch transmission, so the old 8-speed ASIN transmission has been replaced, which was a conventional auto, with a dual-clutch. And like I said, the M235 version does come standard with the company's xDrive all-wheel drive system. If you guys want a 2-wheel drive version, the 228i offers the same powertrain, but with less power, around 241 horsepower. That's technically the most powerful engine, base engine in its class. Now, BMW claims fuel economy is around 23 in the city and 33 on the highway. That's actually the best MPG that you're gonna find in the segment, at around 27 miles per gallon combined. Its fuel tank is around 13 gallons. You're looking at around 350-ish miles of range on a full tank. Now, performance-wise, this is the quickest model of the 2 Series Gran Coupe, hitting 60 in what BMW says will happen in 4.7 seconds, with a top speed of around 155 miles an hour. So those specs are pretty comparable to the last Audi S3 and the Mercedes-AMG CLA 35, which Mercedes just showed off a new version of the CLA. Now, curb weight for this model is around 3,500 pounds. It's actually a little bit lighter versus the previous generation, and what's surprising as well is the M235 version is actually literally not that much heavier, like maybe 20 to 30 pounds heavier versus the base 228i, but you get much more power. But let's go ahead and close up the hood here and talk about the exterior styling, because this vehicle, when it first came out, was the butt of a lot of jokes. Enthusiasts really did not like the styling of this car. In fact, a lot of my colleagues called it the Grand Corolla, and it certainly had that vibe. So for 2025, BMW has attempted to clean up the design of the 2 Series Gran Coupe. And I have to say, guys, styling is always subjective, but I still don't think BMW has gotten the lines of this car right. Now, obviously, the 235 model tries to clean things up with its MFI design language. My particular test car is painted in Vegas red metallic. It's an extra $650. You can see the headlights on this model have been updated. They're full LEDs with the sequential turn signals. They have this kind of interesting fade in and fade out, which some people don't like. They think it looks broken. You do have adaptive LED low and high beams. Obviously, there are some functional air vents that allow for air to pass through to cool the brakes, to cool the engine, of course. There's a big intercooler behind that. And then you can see, if you guys go for the premium package, you now get the option of an illuminated twin kidney grille with the M badge to the side. That little big area there is for the radar sensor and the front camera system if you guys go for the driver assistance professional package. Lots of black accents when you guys go for the M professional or M sport package, of course, with the shadow line package. But overall, the vehicle just looks too narrow for me, and that's where BMW should have made the new model wider. It's still around 70.9 inches wide, around 2 inches narrower versus something like an Integra Type S. A BMW 3 Series is also almost 2 inches wider as well. BMW also made the new model around an inch taller at 56.9. It really needed to get lower instead. But moving around to this angle here, I don't hate the look from here. It looks a little bit better. But again, there's just certain angles of this car where it still looks a little bit frumpy. Now, its wheelbase is unchanged at 105.1, and its overall length is 179.2. Again, it's pretty much unchanged from the previous generation. Again, they should have made this model a little bit longer to accommodate, again, a better proportion to it. Now, my particular test car with the M Sport package, or the M Drivers package, I'm sorry, it includes these optional 19-inch Orbit Gray forged alloy wheels. And you also get these massive brakes. They're huge, actually, 15.2 inches, clamped down by a 4-piston gray painted caliper that's fixed into position. You have a 235/40 R19 tire. These are a Goodyear Eagle F1 summer performance tire. Square setup for the rears as well, that same 235 width. No adaptive suspension, but you have an all-independent suspension, of course. I like how there's a full paint finish. There's not any like additional body cladding or anything like that, although the car does look kind of narrow. That's where the Integra Type S, I think, looks a lot better. But overall, it certainly has a pretty aggressive wheel and tire package. Now, with the premium package, you also get the black painted roof. A panoramic sunroof is also included. That does open up to vent air. The side mirrors are pretty much the M-specific ones where they have this kind of floating top portion, which looks pretty nice. These are also power folding with integrated turn signals and full 360 camera with the driver assistance professional package. I also like the shadow line package where it blacks out the chrome along the window trim. And then looking from the rear of the vehicle, this is where looks frumpy to me again. It just almost tries to look like a sportback design, and I get it. BMW is trying to make it look like a 4 Series Gran Coupe, but I just don't think they were successful. Let me know in the comment section below what you guys think. Looks are always, again, very subjective. Now, looking at the rest of the rear, you can see the taillight design has a new look to it with the full LEDs. It also has a sequential style for the turn signal, which has a fade in and fade out look to it. And then, as you can see, the badging back here, I don't like how the M2 badge is so big. I really could see a lot of people just covering that up or taking that out and trying to call it an M2, even though it's not. The rear exhaust system, as you can see on the 235i model, also has a quad outlet system, and it also sounds pretty decent. Let's go ahead and fire it up so you guys can hear how it sounds real quick. And in Sport Plus, it actually does have some pops and crackles and some synthesized noise, so kind of keep that in mind. Now, looking at the cargo area, to get over here, you can see there's a massive bee that's literally always attacking me when I'm trying to shoot. Opening that up, you can see it's a conventional trunk. This vehicle has around 15.2 cubic feet of space, along with some additional storage off to the side. There's also an underfloor, a very generous underfloor storage area, which is nice. The seats do fold down in a 40-20-40 arrangement, so that's pretty practical. But again, some competitors offer less space. Actually, most offer less space. I haven't had a chance to see the new CLA class, but compared to the Audi S3, this offers way more space. However, the Integra with its sportback design offers around 10 more cubic feet of space, so kind of keep that in mind. Overall, this is certainly a very usable and unexpectedly generous sized trunk for a conventional sedan. Now, moving on to the interior for the redesigned 2 Series Gran Coupe. Before we get inside, however, let me show you guys the key fob. As you can see, this is BMW's latest intelligent access key. It's definitely a large key. I like the M traditional colors along the key fob itself. There's lots of buttons on the key, some along the side. You can see there's the traditional BMW badge here that basically locks the door. If you push that 3 times in sequence, it'll activate the remote start. That's included with the premium package. There's also the unlock. You can also pop open the trunk and activate a panic function. BMW does offer a digital key where you can use your phone as a key as well if you don't want to carry around this big fob. And they also have an auto walkaway lock and unlock feature. Now, as you can see, I have that feature turned off, but if you want to do it traditionally, you touch this little area of the door handle that will lock the doors for you. If you want to unlock the doors, touch the back of the door handle, that will also lock the doors. The mirrors should also power fold, but I guess in the settings, I actually have it turned off, or at least someone else did because I haven't had a chance to fiddle with it. Now, looking at the rest of this interior, as you can see, My particular test car with the performance package has the M Sport seats in the black Viganza with the Alcantara combination. It also includes an illuminated M logo here, which looks pretty sweet at night, along with this little pass-through. The seats themselves are just heated in 3 different levels. No ventilated seats, sadly. The BMW Sport seats also have a 12-way power adjustment. No massaging seats, of course, but you do have a 2-person memory function. I really wish BMW would offer cooled seats, although a lot of vehicles in the class, like the Audi, the Acura, also doesn't offer a ventilated seats. I think only Mercedes does as like a standalone option. If you guys don't want a black interior, you cannot get either the M Professional package or the M Performance package, because those packages roll in these sport seats, which only come in black. I would personally get it in the Oyster, the light Oyster, which is a light gray, but you can also get it with a very dark brown interior as well. Now, looking at the rest of the door panels, you can see the upper portion has a soft touch injection molded plastic. There's an aluminum and sturdy feeling door handle. Nice padded leather over here with the contrast blue stitch. There's also an upgraded Harman Kardon stereo system, which sounds good if you guys are an audiophile. The window controls are one touch for all 4. They have the typical high quality BMW feel. It is hard touch plastic down here, but overall the interior certainly makes a really great first impression. Now, stepping inside, this vehicle has the typical low step-in height for a sedan, and as I shut the door has a relatively solid sounding thunk, not quite as, satisfying as some of the, rear drive architectures. Their doors, as you also notice, they're the pillarless, frameless style. No soft close. Obviously, this is the most affordable BMW model. Now, starting the vehicle up, you can see start stop button is down here by this little, I guess, razor blade of a shifter. And because this vehicle is not a hybrid or a mild hybrid, it has a very traditional starter noise, and all versions of the 2 Series Gran Coupe gets their latest iDrive 9 software with a 10.25-inch instrument panel display that's fully digital, and then a slightly larger 10.7-inch display for the center stack. Again, your climate functions are basically in the screen. A lot of the controls are in the screen. This is where BMW is kind of moving too many controls into the screen, at least for purists, but once you kind of get used to that, the software behind it, I have a love-hate relationship with it. It's relatively quick and snappy. When you go into your, different sources, you can see lots of different, options to choose from, including video games you can play from the actual screen here. It also has wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto that takes up the entire screen. Built-in GPS, of course. You can also customize the interior ambient lighting, and it is quick and snappy to use. It's just sometimes, I think, a little cumbersome. I don't like how the heated seats and steering wheel is in the screen. Same thing with the climate functions. If it takes a second for it to start up, that can be a little bit infuriating. No, actual air purifier in this interior. It's, again, their lower price model. I do appreciate the heads-up display, which is customizable. The dashboard material has a slightly padded soft touch injection molded plastic. It feels more hard touch with the contrast stitch here. This is actually a genuine stitching that has the M colors, which looks pretty cool. This, I appreciate how it's not like a piano black plastic, but it also looks a little cheap. It doesn't feel cheap. I like how smooth it is. And then there's also some real aluminum trim here and here that also has ambient lighting illumination through it. When you actually adjust the, as you can see, when I adjust the temperature, it actually changes the color in the actual ambient light strip there, which is kind of similar to what Mercedes does as well, which I think is a nice little detailed touch. I also love the steering wheel. It is a really nice feeling steering wheel, fat rim as well, or thick rim, contrast stitching, nice 9-3 grip. It's got these big paddles to control the 7-speed dual clutch, along with a boost function here that gives you maximum power. You can also access that through the launch control. The steering wheel has a manual tilt telescoping adjustment with a good amount of adjustability and range. It's pretty easy to get a comfortable driving position. I would have liked to see a flat bottom steering wheel, but it's got, of course, the M Sport badging on it. The horn, it actually sounds pretty decently toned given the price point and size of this vehicle. And then, of course, the dash vents. You can see BMW has switched to this little toggle that you move around to manipulate the airflow. I like how at least it's not electronic. Digital gauge or vents, it's still manual, so that's pretty nice still, I think. And then down here you can see more of those adjustments. You have a little small storage cubby there, which is good for sunglasses. Your smartphone holder is here with a wireless phone charging pad. It even includes, I believe, a vent there to help it stay cool. Decent sized cup holders, 2 USB-C charging ports, a traditional 12-volt power outlet here. And then as you can see, the very few buttons that this car has are basically here, where you can access the rear defrost, max defrost, your driving mode, your drive mode selector is here. If you push that, you can see you can go between a personal, sport, efficient, expressive, relaxed, digital, art, and silence if you want to basically, quiet down all the different screens in this car. When you switch it into sport mode, you definitely notice the engine will rev up. And there's definitely some augmentation happening in the engine through the speakers. I don't love the sound in here, but we'll talk a little bit more about that when we get it out into the driving scene for the vehicle. If I put the car into reverse, there's your full top-down 360 camera with their backup assist. That's included, of course, when you go for the driver assistance professional package. The quality and resolution is excellent. It has parking sensors, automatic emergency braking. I like how it takes up most of the screen. So no complaints there. Again, you have to spend extra $1,700 extra to get that, but it's nice how at least BMW offers it. You can't get that in the Integra, for example. Push that, it accesses some quick, I guess, driver assistance or driver settings here, where you can go into your driver assistance, your chassis settings. There's again, allowing you to adjust the iconic sounds, which again, that's where it's augmenting the sound of the engine. You can also turn on an automatic hold feature. So lots of adjustability. Again, it takes a little bit of a learning curve, but once you get used to it, you can pretty easily figure it out. There is some silver painted plastic trim here. Your volume knob is here along with your skip forward and back buttons. I don't love this little shifter where you basically push it up to go into reverse, kick it down to go to drive. There's also a sport for the transmission, push the P button here to go into park. There's a padded center console here. If I open this up, it's not the biggest, but it certainly is still usable. I like how, again, not very much piano black plastic. The seats, I mentioned earlier, these are the M Sport specific seats. I don't love how they're only in black when you go for this, but the contrast blue stitching, the Alcantara looks nice. Would be nice if they were ventilated seats. The passenger side is still the same 8-way power, but it looks like there's actually no lumbar adjustment and no memory. So keep that in mind if you guys were looking for lumbar. You also can't adjust these bolsters here, but it does give you an extendable thigh extender there, which is nice. The glove compartment, you can see, is damped but not lined with felt. It offers a pretty decent amount of storage, which is good. There's an auto-dimming rearview mirror with a frameless design, no digital camera mirror. You do have an interior camera in here that watches your face, I guess, to make sure you're paying attention, and it's part of, I guess, maybe their dash cam system. Touch-sensitive ambient or map lighting in here that's LED, like the big panel sunroof that does open up to vent air. Some competitors don't even offer that. And then, as you can see, it does open up. That's the fullest that it'll open with a built-in wind deflector. And a retractable sunshade, so it's nice how at least that, you know, is included. But overall, the interior isn't luxurious. There is some cheaper plastics, but it feels pretty much on par with the last Audi S3 that I tested. The CLA's always had a slightly nicer looking interior. This does feel a little bit nicer though than the last Acura Integra, especially when you're looking at the infotainment system. The Acura has the smallest, or actually it might. Yeah, it is the Acura. The Audi has a slightly bigger 10-inch display. So overall, it's still a nice place to spend time. Definitely feels a little cozy in here, but the visibility is pretty decent. But let's go ahead and hop into the backseat area. I can show you guys what that space is like. Of course, the doors are locked. The lock button is right there, obviously. When you open up the rear door, as you can see, you have around 34.4 inches of legroom, which is certainly usable. Not the most space in the class, but not the least amount. The Integra has the biggest back seat. You can see the frameless doors continue back here. You have soft touch injection molded plastic, slightly padded back here with all the contrast blue stitching, aluminum door handle, nice padded armrest here, additional storage and lots of hard touch plastic. And as you can also see, the back seats have the same Vaganza with the Alcantara with the contrast blue stitching, which certainly looks nice, but overall you can tell this is definitely a small vehicle. But once you climb inside, I do have to duck my head pretty thoroughly because of that sloping roof line, even though this car has an inch higher roof. As I get back here and shut the door, you can see this is practically my driving position. These M Sport seats, they do have a pretty large seat back area which eats into the space, but there's a little bit of a cutout here. You can see at 5'7", I have a decent amount of space. There's good foot space. There's a hump here for the drive shaft tunnel. You have rear seat air vents, 2 USB-C charging ports. The windows, I mentioned earlier, one touch for all 4, including the back seat area. No storage pockets here. That's what I find annoying about these sports seats, but at least I like how there's an M badge there, a little see-through area here, which is kind of cool, although I could see kids annoying the driver by like sticking their fingers in there. But I mean, overall, it's about what you'd expect. The Alcantara material is grippy. The headrests, as you can see, you can actually flip them up or down. I have them down because it helps to improve the rear visibility. A rear camera mirror would help that. Fold this down, you can see there's an armrest with 2 cup holders. The sunroof, unfortunately, doesn't come over the head, your head in the backseat area. You do have some LED map lighting. And then in terms of the headroom space, it's pretty tight. I'm 5'7", my hair is grazing the ceiling. So keep that in mind. This vehicle, it definitely doesn't have the space that you're looking for if you've got taller friends, but I can get back here and kind of cross my legs. It's just, again, really cramped. So if you guys, are looking for a little bit more space, the Integra definitely offers more, but this is still obviously more practical versus the 2-door version of the 2 Series, which is technically riding on a different architecture. So here we are back behind the wheel of the baby sports sedan from BMW, the M235 Gran Coupe. If you guys remember the Gran Coupe nameplate for BMW, it's only been around since 2020, and it was basically hated by a lot of BMW enthusiasts because it's essentially a front-wheel drive mini architecture. It doesn't even ride on the same architecture as the rear-wheel drive two-door BMW 2 Series, which is a phenomenal driving sports coupe, basically. This model got a full redesign this year, although some would argue that it's probably just a significantly heavy refresh, although the interior, the powertrain got updates, the styling is new, even though it doesn't really look all that new. And we're back behind the wheel of the 235 model. The I is gone because BMW is phasing out the I, which used to stand for injection as they move toward electrification. This powertrain still utilizes a 2-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder. No mild hybrid assistance, though. You get that in like an Audi S3, for example, but in this BMW, it's not augmented at all by a mild hybrid system. It now makes 312 horsepower, so that's an increase of 11 ponies versus the previous generation. The torque figure is 295 foot-pounds. That 295 foot-pounds is technically a lot less versus the 332 that you got in the previous generation, which, I mean, you get more horsepower, less torque. You also have slightly less weight. This vehicle weighs in at around 3,500 pounds, which is around 100 pounds lighter versus the last model, which I'm actually surprised. Most new cars are actually getting heavier. With this car, it's actually got a slight bit lighter. Now, the sad thing about the 2 Series Gran Coupe is you cannot get this car with an adaptive suspension, and right off the bat, I want to talk about the ride quality. It is definitely firm. It's not unbearable, at least for me, but it's definitely not quite as soft as the last Audi S3 that I drove. It's pretty comparable to the last Integra Type S. This car definitely has a very rowdy sports car feel to it, especially when you have it in Sport Plus. There's some pops and crackles from the exhaust. You can put it into Sport Plus as well for the transmission. And when you have it in its sport mode, this is where the 7-speed dual clutch, which replaces the old 8-speed ACEN automatic, does now offer a launch control feature. And BMW claims 4.7 seconds 0 to 60 for this car. So let's go ahead and try it out on this stretch of road. Now, this particular stretch is slightly uphill, but we'll try it up again up ahead where it is more on level surface. To activate the launch control, everything in Sport Plus, stability control in Sport Plus, floor it, launch control active. It builds the boost to around 3,500. It's actually fighting for traction a little bit. Wow, 4.4 seconds there, and that's with it more going slightly uphill. So we already beat the BMW projected time of 4.7, and I expect this car to get even closer into the low 4s when we try it up ahead. But this car definitely feels like it, is utilizing the BMW badge well. Even though it's technically a front-wheel drive mini architecture, this car feels playful. The suspension is nice and firm. The body has very little roll. The steering is also quick, direct. Not much in terms of feedback to what the front tires are doing, but this car, look at it, it changes directions so fast. It's pretty akin to the last Integra Type S that I drove. This definitely feels a lot sportier than the Audi S3. Right down to the noises, the visceral mechanical feel. The Audi, however, was quicker, at least until I do my second run up ahead, where I got 4.2 seconds in the Audi. But this is definitely, in the same league. The X-Drive all-wheel drive system is front drive biased, and you do get a sense that this car is a front drive biased car because most of the weight, around 58%, is on the front axle. So it feels a little bit nose heavy, like it understeers. It wants to understeer first. And this is where I wish the steering offered more feedback. I mean, obviously, if you guys are coming from a 3 Series, this car, you're going to notice its limitations and its like very different feel. But that's to be expected, of course, with a front drive architecture. I like the sound as well. And I also like the burbles and slight pops from the exhaust. It's definitely nice. It's not really expected for a vehicle in this class, but I'm appreciating it. The 312 horsepower Turbo 4 offers plenty of power, lots of flexibility, not much in terms of turbo lag. It's also a relatively smooth engine as well. Let's try another run here. This time I'm expecting it to be a little bit faster because we're on level ground. We'll activate the launch control. This one felt a little bit better. 4.25 seconds there, so 4.25, a half a second faster than what BMW claims, and basically a smidge slower than the Audi S3. I got 4.18 in that vehicle. but that's still a very impressive time. I'm liking the performance that BMW gives you. The shifts are also just really like aggressive. Now they aren't the smoothest shifts. Let me take when you drive the vehicle normally, or first of all, I want to talk about as we go into these corners here. I'm enjoying this car. I really am liking the feel. And minis are fun to drive, so it's not surprising the 2 Series Gran Coupe is as well. I just wish it had more feedback through the steering wheel. This is where the Integra Type S is a little bit better in that regard. But let's go ahead and switch the drive mode into its normal setting here. We'll take it out of its sport because it's a little bit too aggressive at times. The engine can get a little boomy when you're in this mode, but let's go into just the normal mode. When you're in this mode here, you can hear everything quiets down. The ride quality isn't affected because there's no adaptive dampers. So my test car has the M Sport Professional package or whatever, M Sport package, I'm sorry. So it includes those 19-inch Orbit Gray forged wheels on a big 15.2-inch rotor. Those are the largest rotors that you're gonna find in the class. But the engine itself, you can definitely tell in Sport Plus it's augmenting the sound. Actually, it's augmenting the sound by a lot, but it still sounds pretty decent. It's still relatively refined. The transmission, I will say, now that they've switched over to a dual clutch, it's definitely still, a little bit jerky, but in normal mode, I'm actually noticing it gets pretty comfortable. It gets pretty, smooth as well. Now, it's not going to be as smooth as a conventional automatic, but I think that's kind of the point of a dual clutch, is it's not going to feel like a conventional automatic. But at the same time, I think Audi's dual clutch in the S3 is a little bit more refined, especially in day-to-day driving. I did notice there were times where, I was driving in stop-and-go traffic and it fumbled a bit, stumbled, and it tried to choose the right gear and it clunked into the next gear. But that was only like a couple of instances, so it could just be my particular test car here. It's still relatively good. This vehicle does have a start-stop feature, which without the 48 volt, it is a little bit, not smooth as well. And that's kind of where the Audi system is better, because the Audi's engine does have a 48 volt mild hybrid system. But overall, daily driving the M235i, or minus the I, the Gran Coupe, it's a really easy car to drive. Visibility is also pretty decent. I can see out of the front, the side, and the rear nicely. BMW doesn't do a digital camera rearview mirror. My test car has the driver assistance professional package, so it does offer some hands-free driving with lane keep assist. And in terms of the fuel efficiency, this car is rated at 24 in the city, 33 on the highway. It's actually the most efficient model in the class. And in my weeks through the testing, I got around 28 mpg. So very good gas mileage. BMW has always been great with their efficient dynamics. Their vehicles have always been more efficient than the numbers would suggest. With its 13-gallon fuel tank, you're looking at around 350 miles of range. I got around 400 miles, which is excellent as well. So very good efficiency, easy to drive, easy to see out of. You just have to deal with a slightly harsher ride quality, but this thing, though, is fast. It satisfies the mission of a sports sedan, which I love. And even though there are times where it felt like it was understeering a little bit more than I'd like, it feels nose heavy. This particular class, that's how it is. Everything in this class is a front drive based vehicle, although again, BMW doesn't offer a two-wheel drive version, a front drive version of the M235. The 228, I believe, will get a front wheel drive version for 2026, but just driving the 2 Series Gran Coupe normally, it's an easy car to drive. It's comfortable-ish most of the time, unless you guys really, really are coming from something a lot softer riding. But I mean, overall, I like the way this car drives. I'm just not entirely sure I'm sold on the looks and the price of this vehicle. Again, for this kind of money on the 235, you could also get yourself a base version of an M340i, which is a significantly more powerful and traditional BMW in its sense. Now, with just over 15,000 units sold in America last year, the 2 Series has actually been enjoying some pretty decent sales ever since they fully redesigned both the Coupe, of course, and the Gran Coupe model. Now, BMW sadly doesn't disclose what the take rate is between the 4-door and the 2-door version of the 2 Series. I imagine over 50% probably end up taking the 4-door because this is, again, the more practical option. Compared to the 3 Series, however, this does roughly half the sales here in America, but it's still a relatively big win because remember, this is the entry entry-level model for a BMW. It's one of the cheapest ways to get into a new BMW. And after spending a full week with the new 2 Series M235i Gran Coupe, minus the I keep saying the I, this model, I have to say, I still have a love-hate with it because I love the way it drives. I think this actually drives better than the last Audi S3. It almost feels a little bit more akin to an Acura Integra Type S, but also not quite as engaging when the roads get extra twisty, because the Acura I felt had a little bit more grip. But this is still, got that BMW Mini, characteristics where it feels very much like a go-kart. It feels very rowdy. It feels very playful. The ride quality is a little bit on the firmer side, but it's not too hateful. I could still daily drive this vehicle on longer trips with no problem. The acceleration, as you guys saw, 0 to 60, 4.25 seconds, makes this vehicle basically as quick as the last Audi S3, the refreshed version that I tested, where the Audi also has more power, which makes this car one of the quickest accelerating vehicles in the segment, at least until Mercedes-AMG comes out with a new version of their CLA 45, although the 45 should be the quickest accelerating model, at least the current one. We haven't heard, of course, of the new generation. The interior of this model certainly is appropriate given the price tag. It's not the most luxurious, it's not the most spacious, but it has their latest iDrive 9 software, which I still have a love-hate relationship with. The seats are also pretty comfortable, although I might skip the M Sport package or the professional performance package, whatever, because those M seats, you can only get them in black. I wish BMW would offer ventilated seats, but you can get the interior in like a really nice oyster colored Veganza, which I think would look a lot better with this Vegas red interior. Or exterior, I'm sorry. The back seat is certainly average to slightly below average. The Integra offers, again, the biggest back seat and biggest trunk, which is probably why it's the best-selling model. It's also the cheapest vehicle in its particular segment. But speaking of price, if you guys are looking to get your hands on the new 2 Series Gran Coupe, BMW does charge a pretty penny more than the Audi and the Acura, although the Mercedes is the most expensive. Basically, a base 228 starts at around $41,600. This model here, of course, is more. It's around $8,000 more, starting at $49,500 plus their destination charge. Now, my test car has a lot of options like the premium package, the technology package, the driver assistance professional package, the M Sport performance package, of course, plus the upcharge for the color and a few other standalone options. With destination, my particular test car here comes in at around $59,000. So 59 grand is certainly a lot of money, but it's also around the same price tag as the last Audi S3 that I tested with the Prestige package, which is around $60,000. The Mercedes, again, is the most expensive model. You can easily spend an extra 5 grand more for the Mercedes. The Acura is the value king, though, because an Integra Type S is around $53,000, around $55,000 with destination and the color upcharge. So BMW, I think, has priced this vehicle right. My problem, though, is when you look at a 3 Series, a 3 Series starts at around $46,000 for a 330i, an M340i starts at around $60,000. So you can get into a base M340i for basically the price of this fully loaded M235, and I just think that I personally would rather go for the 3 Series because it's a rear drive car. It has a straight 6 turbo engine that sounds even better, that feels more balanced, it's even quicker. So, I mean, overall, yes, this vehicle is smaller and less expensive, but you have to keep the options in check in order to keep this car, a more stronger value proposition versus a 3 Series. With all that said, hope you guys have enjoyed my full overview on the brand new 2025 BMW M235 Gran Coupe. If you're also looking to see the latest cars I'm testing, be sure to follow me on Instagram at Redline_reviews, like us on Facebook, and as always, guys, please keep subscribing to the Redline Reviews YouTube channel for all the latest reviews. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you all in the next video.